y'all get right in front of us. So
Absolutely.
You're going to right here.
Yeah,
right
I'll come right here, center stage.
Governor, let's just go center stage.
Well, good morning. We're really happy to be here at UF Health in Jacksonville. We've got a lot of great people with us here today. I'd like to recognize them. Our Surgeon General, Dr. Joe Ladapo, is here. We have Leon Haley Sr., who's the father of Dr. Leon Haley Jr., as well as his wife and Dr. Haley's mother, Elizabeth Ann Haley. We have Grant Haley, who is a cornerback for the Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams. Just for the record, as a Bucs fan, I did rib him a little bit because I think had the Bucs beat the Rams, I think they would have ended up winning the Super Bowl. But congratulations, it's been a great run for them. We have Russell Armistead, CEO of UF Health Jacksonville, Dr. Linda Edwards, Dean of UF College of Medicine Jacksonville, Dr. Andy Godwin, Chair of the Department of Emergency Medicine at UF College of Medicine Jacksonville. We have Senator Aaron Bean, Senator Is Jen Bradley here? I didn't see her. Representatives Byrd and Fisher and Duggan. Is Yarborough here? I did not see him. Oh, okay, yep, it's Clay Yarborough. So thank you guys for coming. And we're also pleased to be joined here by other leaders from the hospital. Last year, the community here in Jacksonville and really throughout the state of Florida was shocked by the tragic news of the passing of Dr. Leon Haley Jr. Dr. Haley dedicated his life to helping people, and those who knew him were inspired by his leadership and commitment to bettering his community. And so today is a special day for the UF Health Jacksonville community, as well as the overall Northeast Florida community, because we're going to be honoring the legacy of Dr. Leon Haley. As many of you know, we have had the budget passed by the legislature. I have not signed the budget yet because we're still going through a lot of line items to make sure that we're being good stewards of the taxpayers' dollar. However, I can say today and announce that I have approved an $80 million appropriation for UF Health Jacksonville to replace their current outdated and overcrowded trauma center with a state-of-the-art level 1 trauma facility. And this is a really significant, this will have significant impact on this community. I think a lot of the different projects that get done, this was something that had huge support, and we're happy to be able to support it. We're also happy to be able to announce that the new state-of-the-art trauma center will be named Leon Haley Jr. MD Trauma Center, named after Dr. Leon Haley Jr. So this project will provide better access to emergency health services for the Jacksonville community, as well as high-quality care. UF's emergency department draws patients from across the area, including residents from Nassau, Clay, St. Johns, and Baker counties, and with the new trauma center is expected to see over 125,000 patients a year. Outside of Jacksonville, the closest trauma centers are either Gainesville or Savannah. So this level 1 trauma center will not only benefit the Jacksonville community, but also the surrounding communities who need access to emergency care. Now, UF Health is a top-notch institution that not only serves the community, but also prepares our doctors for the future. The hospital is Florida's first level 1 trauma center and is the only level 1 trauma center in the region. Last year, UF Health Jacksonville was named one of the best hospitals in America by Health Grades, received almost 700,000 ambulatory visits, had over 100,000 emergency room visits, had over 4,000 trauma center visits, and employed almost 5,000 people. So the hospital not only serves the medical needs of the Jacksonville community, it's also a leading teaching hospital, preparing Florida's future doctors, as well as a significant employer in the region. It's fitting that we're able to use this facility to honor Dr. Haley's legacy. This will be a major institution throughout this region. We want to make sure that patients in Florida, of course, we protect their rights, which we did in this past legislative session, but we want them to have access to high-quality care. This is a big investment, but I think it's a warranted investment, and we really are excited to be able to announce that, once that budget is signed, don't worry, don't call me anymore, we're good. We got it, it's approved, and it'll be in there, and we're going to continue to support projects like this. We're also fortunate to be here today to hear from some great folks, and so, we have some members of Dr. Haley's family, so we're going to hear first from his son, Grant, and then his father, Leon Sr. So, Grant, if you want to come up, the floor is yours.
Good morning. First thing I want to do is thank you to Governor DeSantis. This is very special to me and my family. Not just to me and my family, but I think the community of Jacksonville as a whole. My father came to Jacksonville 5-6 years ago, and every single time I got to come visit, I got to see the hospital. I get to see, his vision of what he wanted the city to truly be like. And, being a kid, my siblings and I watched my father, work in the ER at Grady Hospital, and, the trauma and trauma center that, they had over there. And, it was really important to him to be able to be a hero. I think that's how my father envisioned himself. And it's a special moment, for all of us to be able to, remember him by having the Leon L. Haley Trauma Center at UF Health. I think his legacy goes far beyond just being a trauma doctor or a CEO. I think, he taught me so many values and lessons of just being, a man of service, a man of faith, a man that, what truly is a man, not somebody who is in the spotlight, but someone who does the dirty work when people aren't looking. And I think it's a blessing to be able to sit up here and, talk on behalf of not just my family, but my siblings. I know they wish they could be here. My brother's graduating law school soon, and my sister's doing her thing in business school. But I think to be able to come up here and, spend this time and come down is really important for me. And it's just such a blessing, not just thanks to Governor DeSantis, but thank you to everyone that's kind of put their hand in and the pot and, push this initiative to, honor my father. And as I say, I'll always have a home here in Jacksonville. So thank you so much.
Okay, next we'll hear from Leon Haley Sr.
Good morning. Yesterday, Easter Sunday, my wife and I were listening to a Easter sermon. It was entitled Good News from the Graveyard. And in the course of the sermon, the minister referred to two experiences all of us from time to time share or have. One is grief, the other is gratitude. And so in the course of the day, I kept reflecting upon Leon and my wife and I and his siblings and the grief that we have shared over the last year. It's been deep and it's painful and it's filled us with a great deal of sorrow. But on the other hand, we're full of gratitude. First of all, we are grateful to God for having given us Leon for the number of years he was with us. He was a wonderful and loving son. So much so that from the time he left our home at about age 18 to go to college, he never stopped calling us every Sunday to check on Mama and Daddy. That's the kind of son he was. And then when we had our second shot for the COVID, he wanted to make sure we were going to be all right. because he said there might be some effects of that. He came from Jacksonville to Florida, to Pittsburgh, to be there to make sure we were all right, and we were. But it was comforting for him to be there. But the same love he showed for us, he showed for his siblings, his brother Lauren and his sister Lisa, and obviously a great deal of love for his children that he talked about all the time, Grant and Wesley and Nichelle. And so we have a full of gratitude for that love. We're also grateful for the love he had for this city and this hospital and for the community and for the love that he reflected in his concern for the poor, the left out, and the marginalized. And so gratitude in terms of the resources that are going to be made available to build this new facility named after him, the Emergency and Trauma Hospital, is a deep, deep sense of gratitude to us. And we will be a legacy that I'm sure Leon is smiling down on us about it all. Thank you very much.
All right, now we'll have Russ Armistead.
Gosh, thank you, Governor DeSantis, Grant, Dr. Haley Sr. We see Leon in this family. I mean, there's no other way. Thank you for those words. That's actually almost enough for today. I have a few words that I'll say, but Dr. Haley and Grant, you're really the reason that we're able to be here today. What an exciting event for UF Health Jacksonville, the College of Medicine here in Jacksonville, of course the Haley family, the city, Northeast Florida, and Southeast Georgia. What the legislature and the governor have done is monumental for us, for this community, and for our patients. Our Level 1 Trauma Center has been a centerpiece of healthcare in this region for nearly 3 decades. As some of you know, we're the first trauma program to open in Florida in 1983. Today, we're still the only combined adult and pediatric trauma center in this region. Each year, you've heard, we see over 4,000 patients. Imagine the impact on the community, patients we treat, their family and friends, and their livelihood. It's just really almost impossible to measure. We've been able to provide these services despite working in an incredibly challenging environment. Our people provide some of the best care and expertise you'll find, but the trauma center itself, as well as our emergency department, was in dire need of upgrades. This funding will change that dramatically. It's a wonderful way to honor our colleague, former CEO, Dr. Leon Haley Jr., who tragically passed away this year. This started when a group of Leon's friends on a fishing trip to the Keys decided they needed to do something special to honor Leon's legacy, short legacy here. With 9 individuals, 4 or 5 of those are here today. They called me and I thought they were nuts. Anyone who met Dr. Haley knew how much he cared about health care as well as taking care of equity. He was well known as a bridge builder between rich, poor, black, white, Democrat, Republican, and it's so fitting that the governor and a bipartisan group of legislators chose to fund and name this for him. His work with the community and political leaders is well known. Connection to the city council, civic groups is unmatched. Everyone here at UF can't thank you enough. I'm personally touched to be a part of this because of my connection with Dr. Haley Jr., this organization, and our community. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Linda Edwards.
Thank you, Governor DeSantis. It is very difficult to follow Dr. Haley and Grant. Thank you, and so nice to formally meet you today. It has been a pleasure to meet you and chat with you, and I am actually humbled to be standing at the podium. And so I thank everyone for giving me the opportunity to speak. So on behalf of the College of Medicine, Jacksonville, its physicians and our staff, we really do thank you for coming today. And Russ said it best when he said, "This is monumental." Though I have only been dean of the college for just under a year, I have been a part of this campus for a number of years, and I won't say how many that number is, but I can say that this is probably the most memorable day for my time on this campus, and I'm sure I could say the same thing for a number of our other staff and faculty. This is truly monumental and memorable. And it's monumental not because this community will be getting an incredible new resource, but also because it's going to be named after one of the most gifted leaders with whom we have all had the good fortune to work, Dr. Leon L. Haley. Dr. Haley was committed to serving the growing Northeast Florida population, and he led future advances in healthcare and trauma services. He was the first African American to hold the position of Dean of the College of Medicine in Jacksonville and the CEO of UF Health Jacksonville. And he was beloved by the entire Jacksonville community because of his leadership, because of his role as an educator. He was an emergency room physician, and as Russ mentioned, he was a community bridge builder. He is sorely missed, and I think I can say this for almost everyone in this room who is a UF Health employee. There is not a day that goes by that we don't remember him in some way or aren't reminded of what he has done and his servant leadership. So it's a great honor for him and his family. The new center will benefit the community for decades to come. As the only safety net hospital in the Jacksonville area, UF Health Jacksonville not only provides top-level care to an underserved population, but also for the entire Northeast Florida region. We continue to grow locally and regionally, and this is a testament to the vision of a number of people that are in this room, but also to Dr. Haley's vision. And most importantly, this growth, including the new trauma center, is going to provide continued healthcare resources for people throughout the region. Our trauma care, and I'm looking at two of our surgeons as I say this, is a key link to good health in the community. And being a level 1 trauma center means we have University of Florida trauma surgeons, we have other specialists and specially trained staff who are available to treat the most seriously injured individual every day, 24 hours a day. And these individuals have been working under challenging circumstances, as you've just heard. And so having a state-of-the-art facility will give them an incredible resource. And some of the members of our trauma team, as I said, are here this morning. And I can tell you that when they found out, Governor, that you were coming today, they were ecstatic. So thank you, Governor. Thank you for our legislature for recognizing the need. Thank you to our local government and civic leaders, and thank you to everyone in the community, many of you who loved Dr. Haley like we do, for taking this and making this a reality. Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay, finally, Surgeon General of Florida, Dr. Joe Ladapo.
Hey, good morning. Well, I'm really honored to be here, and I didn't know Dr. Haley, and I wasn't in Florida at the time when he tragically passed away. I was in California at the time, but I've gotten an opportunity to learn a bit about him, to read a bit about him, to hear the response that the community had at the time of his tragic and untimely passing, and of course to see some of his family members and to see you all here. observe how you all are responding to this announcement. And it's really remarkable. I mean, it's very clear from looking at the faces. There's a genuine sort of appreciation and love that is visible in his faces and is in your faces. And I think it must be a reflection of the relationship that you had with him and how you felt about him and how he impacted your lives and impacted the community here, which is just wonderful. And I wish I had an opportunity to meet him. So I think it's in addition to the example that he clearly set and the very positive and affirming effect that he had on you all, the introduction of sort of expanded trauma center facilities is also, of course, a benefit for the community. Trauma is something that we all want to avoid, but often don't have a choice in terms of when it chooses to become a part of someone's life. So having access to resources that really help people preserve life and preserve function in a timely way is obviously a huge benefit to the community. So I just want to end again with just restating my appreciation for, or the beginning of my appreciation for how much of an impact he must have had on each one of your lives and how much of a special person he must have been to bring out the genuine feelings and love that's present in this room. And I want to thank the governor again and thank the Florida lawmakers for their part in making this possible.
We'll do the check presentation, so why don't the family come, and if someone of you want to get in here too, since you guys are going to get it, we'll do a nice picture. So, 80 million bucks, not bad for a day's work. Well, we're excited about this. I think this is going to be tremendous for the community, and I think it's a really fitting tribute. So we're happy about that. This is one of many things that have been done over the most recent legislative session. Have been very productive. There are some things that we were working on that didn't quite make it over to the finish line, and so what I said is on some of these issues that if we can get to a place where we can eventually punch it through, then we would absolutely do a special session. And so those are issues like property insurance and trying to, bring some sanity and stabilize and have a functioning market. I'm confident that we're going to be able to get that done. I am not confident we'd be able to punch it through this week, but what I will be signing this week is a proclamation to set the dates for a special session in May. We're going to work with the legislative leaders on those dates, and it will have as the main focus the reform of the property insurance market. We may also address other issues that came close to getting across the finish line that maybe we can tweak and get there. And once we have an agreement on that, I'll be announcing that as an addition as well. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions. Yes, sir. So they didn't say that was the only thing. I think there's a number of reasons. So we got rid of Common Core, as you know. We have best standards, which is a better way to do a lot of things, but particularly math. I mean, one of the criticisms was the parents couldn't help their kids with the math homework. So any of the books that don't meet the best standards are not going to be appropriate for us to use. You do have things like social and emotional learning and some of the other things that are more political in there. In our view, on something like math, first, it doesn't meet the standards, but second, math is about getting the right answer. And we want kids to learn to think so they get the right answer. It's not about how you feel about the problem or to introduce some of these other things. There's a right answer and there's a wrong answer, and we want all our students getting the right answers. And so most of the books that did not meet Florida standards, for whatever reason, happen to be in the early grades. As you get into the older grades, most of those books did meet the standards, but we're going to continue to focus the education on the actual strong academic performance of the students. We don't want things like math to have, some of these other concepts introduced. It's not been proven to be effective, and quite frankly, it takes our eye off the ball. Yes, sir. And that's not true. I mean, look, this whole issue is a serious constitutional issue. I can tell you, a lot of folks here, when you have someone that's 160 miles away, there's been complaints about constituent service and things like that. So I think you've heard different things, but at the end of the day, what we propose, and the legislature will probably do something similar, we're confident that will hold up in court. I am not confident the other way would have held up in court, and so that's just the nature of what we got to do. But people are always going to say different things. No matter anything we do, there's somebody's going to say something. But I think once the dust settles, most people look at the issues and say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense what you're doing, so we're going to continue to do that. So I would say, one, talk to the Department of Education for more background on it. What they have told me is that there's an appeal process that the textbook publishers can go through. And right now, what's in their textbooks is considered proprietary information. So I would be perfectly fine with doing that. That's just not been their standard of practice, and it's not because they don't want to release, it's just because these are textbooks and this is how they do it. So some of those textbooks will be able to say, hey, we should appeal. Some may agree to tweak some of the things. If there's things, if there's Common Core math, maybe they'll be able to dial that back. So there's a process that they're going to go under, but I would talk to the Department of Education and ask them what they were going to do. I would like it to be released, but I also respect the process. Sure.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for that question. You actually have provided me with an opportunity to illustrate two things. So the first thing is that type of question is important because, generally understanding disease processes, whether it's COVID or other conditions, is important, and sometimes there are insights from looking at other countries, other cities, other places. So that's really important to do. But the second thing that your question illustrates is something that I want to just share has been a problem throughout the pandemic. So a very common pattern has been for people to grab onto data that fits with a hypothesis they have, and I would actually even say stronger than a hypothesis, but a belief they have about how, sort of how things are, or why the pandemic is sort of unfolding in a certain way, in different places. A very good example, actually, of that is a paper that was recently published in the Journal of the American Medical Association that looked at something we call excess deaths in different states in the country, including Florida. And basically what this paper did was take advantage of the fact that Delta was essentially a very unique phenomenon to the southeast and used the fact that excess deaths were higher in Florida during the Delta wave that really didn't affect California, and of course tried to tie it to their beliefs about how the pandemic should have been handled. In other words, the way that Governor DeSantis has led Florida is wrong. What they didn't mention, and they, of course, and specifically, they tried to tie it to vaccination rates. What these authors in Journal of the American Medical Association, which is a leading medical journal, didn't mention is that actually vaccination rates were comparable. So when we're looking at how the pandemic is unveiling and unfolding in different ways, it would be much wiser to sort of approach these questions with humility and be open to understanding rather than assuming that, it's just this or it's just that. Because the fact is, guys, we really don't know. We don't know why some locations have had surges at different times. We don't know why some countries have largely been untouched. The governor and I were talking about sub-Saharan Africa. Very, very little mortality there. And it's not because of vaccinations. There are very few people in that part of the world that are vaccinated against COVID-19. So I think approaching this from a place of humility rather than ideology would be to the betterment of everyone in very meaningful ways.
Oh, no, it's good. I think it's fine. Okay. I think it's fine. He gave a great answer. I would also just point out, I think if you look when people will try to look at the Western countries, and I think they've had pretty similar experiences, regardless of the mitigations imposed. A lot of it's tracked age and obesity rates in those societies, and that's not just in the United States. That would include European countries as well, and so that's just the reality. But what I would say is when you look at the states that have imposed really draconian mitigations, you've had a lot of collateral damage. You've had excess mortality apart from COVID because of some of the lockdown policies. You denied kids education, and that's going to have ramifications for years and years and years. And then obviously you've had really significant problems with the economy. And if someone's unemployed, their future health prospects go down as well. So there's a whole host of things. And I would also just say sometimes when you're comparing, the one thing that it just really frustrates me the media does is they will look at a country like China, which is run by the Communist Party of China. They will actually cite their statistics as if those are valid. According to China, they have had no COVID deaths for like a year and a half. Do you believe that? And if you believe that, I have a bridge in Brooklyn I would like to sell you. Yes, sir. No, because the map hasn't passed and I didn't draw it. The guys that did it are going to testify and kind of go through all that. So I'm not sure, what is what on all this. But I have not endorsed anybody, I don't think, for any congressional race, and I won't until we're done with this process. So. That's not true. That's not true. Yeah, so, well, first of all, there was no money stripped. Well, first of all, this is the legislature did it. So, the legislature was working on peeling back funding for districts who defied Florida law. They decided not to do that. So if you look at the education budget, we have a record funding in the state of Florida. Massive teacher pay increase, big per pupil funding increase, and I think the largest BSA increase in quite some time. So that's just that, and that applies to everybody. They have another categorical that they added that I don't know was in last year's budget, school recognition, and they've tried to tie that to or presumptively tied that to those past decisions. We're actually looking at it. We're not clear that that's what it actually says. And so basically, we're going to follow the law. But if the law lets those districts apply for it, then they'll be able to apply for it. We're going to apply it fairly. All right, well, it's been great, guys. We got to run. I got to get back to Tallahassee, but thank you all. And it's really excited for everything that's happened.